Here's the overview. We'll discuss key concepts and background information. So we always wonder, why do we have to do what we do? Why are we submitting Fall 2 data? We've already submitted Fall 1 data for students, and why do we have to turn around and jump into Fall 2, right? Well, everything is dictated to us by legislation, and some of that legislation is the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, the U.S. Department of Civil Rights. We have an obligation to monitor EL students, and so you providing information to ensure their services is a requirement of Fall 2. We have assignment monitoring, right? And so the CTC uses the Fall 2 data to make sure that your staff is properly authorized and credentialed. And then we have school accountability report cards. The information about our staff and our courses partly informs the school accountability report cards. So who's involved with the data collection? Well, of course, you're involved, but you can't do it alone. And so you, as a data coordinator, you need to have relationships with staff at the school sites. They're going to be the ones inputting data into your student information system, looking at the forms submitted by the students and the staff members, right? Human resources, they have your staff information. That information is sourced from your human resource system and gets into your student information system. Often it's the human resource staff that has the information that informs the SIS. And so there has to be a process to verify the information, updated annually. And then you have other staff involved. You have special education staff, program staff, administrators, support services. All of these staff have their data reported and provide instruction or support to your students. Their information has to be in the SIS, it has to be verified. So it's going to take a team, and it might be a little bit more involved than Fall 1 was. So make those connections. Be sure to vocalize the assistance that you need. So the key dates for Fall 2 will begin with Census Day. That was October 1st. All the data is reflective of Census Day, hence the name Fall 2. Although the submission is due at the end of winter, almost in spring, the data is reflective. We're looking back to Census Day, okay? For all students, all staff. Snapshot revisions start on December 15th. So just as Fall 1 ends, we'll start running the certification reports and the snapshots for Fall 2. February 6th is the zero error milestone. So to have zero errors by February 6th, you most likely need to be submitting Fall 2 data prior to the winter holiday. And then February 27th is the certification deadline, and there is no amendment period. That's a hard and fast deadline. Okay, so I'm going to pull some websites and show you the resources for Fall 2. So first we have the CALPADS user manual, and you can see we have the Fall 2 roadmap. The user manual is an essential document for CALPADS. It has everything you need. All right, so this is what the Fall 2 roadmap looks like. Here's the reporting calendar, a submission checklist, the guidelines and milestones, pertinent relevant information from flash messages, what files to submit for Fall 2. So everything you need for Fall 2 would be in this roadmap, among many other things. So if you're unfamiliar with the CALPADS user manual, you would be very wise to become familiar with it. And so here's the Fall 2 checklist. I downloaded it. It's an Excel document. I'm going to go to the checklist. I'm going to enlarge it just a bit so it's easy to view. So as you can see, every step you need from preparation to certification will be listed. We have several different tasks. You can identify the person whose responsibility is to complete the task and annotate the date it's completed. You can also add on to this checklist and make it a kind of a project management document or a data management document for your submission. So here's the files that are submitted for Fall 2, different things to look for and verify. Once you complete your submission, certification error and validations, reports to check. Then you can see each report is listed. You can verify who should be checking it and signing off on these reports. So it's a great tool. It was created by a LEA from the field, so it's not a CSIS or a CDE tool, and it's proven to be essential, especially for those of you who are new. So I encourage you all to use that. So then the next resource is the CALPADS system documentation page. So here we have the CALPADS system documents. From Fall 1, you should be familiar with many of these documents, but a few that you may not have used. So the code set tells you all the different code values. It's very helpful when submitting data or resolving errors. You have 2 different file specification documents that tell you all the different field requirements and validations to expect. The valid code combinations document is seldom used for Fall 1, but it has a great use for Fall 2, and we'll open that up shortly. Then the CALPADS error list, which actually will take you back to the user manual, and under Help, Troubleshooting, this is where you will land if you click CALPADS error list. You can download the Excel document here, or you can look at one of the errors that you see in CALPADS. Of course, these errors are linked directly from CALPADS. So let's look at one such error. Here's the name, error description, fields validated, which is the information CALPADS identifies a discrepancy, and suggested resolution, right? So that's the error list. So here's the valid code combos, and it's a Excel document. Here's the title page. So if you've never opened it before, this is what you're going to see. All the CALPADS support documents that are Excel documents have tabs at the bottom. I'm just going to click the ellipse to cycle through. Here's an example of a Fall 2 resource. You have non-classroom based support assignments and job classification code. I've used this document and filter for it, so let me take the filters out. Okay, so this is how the document will look. First thing with all of these documents is you want to go to the last academic year effective and select NA. I only want those that are effective currently. These are all the current codes. Then the job classification codes. If I have an administrator, which is job classification code 10, here are all the different non-classroom based job assignment codes I can use right here. If I have a teacher and it's a 12 or 27 and they're not instructing students, I can see the different job classification assignment code. So if I have a mentor teacher, 6010, that's the non-classroom based job assignment. So that's how that would be used. Probably the most often Fall 2 resource used would be the course group master combos tab in the valid code combinations document. Here it is. It's a list of all the state course codes. Of course, I've already filtered for NA in the last academic year effective. And here I have all the different course codes. I don't have the definitions. You have to go to the CALPADS code set if you are assigning courses or mapping courses to get the definition. The definition identifies the content of the course. However, if it's a common course, English 9, 10, or 11, here are the state course codes. If you want to search quickly, you can search by name. Say I have a college course, I could just type in college, provided that I can spell college. And you can see all the college courses are listed, college credit courses. So if I had to report a college course, I would use one of these state course codes. And then lastly, I have the assignment monitoring guidance. Here, you go to CTC, or you could type in SASS information. This you can Google, and it brings you here. You have information about exceptions, determination. If you want to know the type of credentials a staff member should have based on a course code, you can look it up. Let's look at 9104. I think that's English language development. Yes, it is. And it will tell you the authorizations they can have. Now, that's true of all courses, okay? So this is essential. If you had troubles with assignment monitoring in the past, certainly this is a resource you want to use. You can see appropriate credentials for English learners, appropriate credentials for non-classroom based assignments. So your pupil services and your administrators also have to be appropriately credentialed. And so that's listed here. So your CTC questions, your CalSAS questions, this is a great resource for you. And so that's a real quick example of all the pertinent resources for Fall 2. So you're generally going to submit 5 files for Fall 2. 4 of these files are related: your staff demographic, your staff assignment, your course, and your student course section enrollments are related. The data builds off each other. It's relevant to this year. The post-secondary status file, PSTS, is submitted in Fall 2 based on the survey results for students that completed last year. So that file is not related to the other 4 files, all right? The staff demographic provides us information about the teachers of record, your date of employment, how many years you've been active. The staff assignment identifies the job classification for the staff member and their FTE. The course provides us the instruction information. Those are the teaching assignments for all your teachers. And the student course section enrollment shows us the students taking the course, what instruction they're receiving, if they are an EL, if they're going to get services, that's reported in the course. So that information is built upon each other, starting with the staff demographic, the staff assignment, the course, the student course section. All righty, now those files and the data submission sequence. So technically, CALPADS allows you to submit these records in any order. If you're new, we suggest you do it in this sequence listed here. Staff demographic first, right? Every teacher needs a staff demographic record submitted. Then the staff assignment, you're going to tell us what that staff member does at your district. Then you need a course section record. For those of your staff that are teachers and that are providing instruction to students, the course record is that instruction. Course records are teaching assignments. Then the student course section, again, it's a small file. It's just enrolling students showing the instruction they're receiving. And then the post-secondary status, we say submit it last because you're collecting your surveys. It's the smallest file. It should be the easiest. It's not related to the rest. You can submit it first if you like. You can submit it multiple times. Now, to the right, you see a little table, and it has every file but the staff demographic file. This is to bring your attention to the fact that these files are full replacement. What that means is, based on the operational keys, when you submit data in these files, all the existing data in CALPADS will be replaced. So if you look at file type SASS or SASS, the operational key is the school of assignment, academic year ID. So if you submit records for all your schools, say you have 5 schools in your LEA, and you have to make a correction at one school, if you submit just a file with records for that one school, you're going to replace all those teachers with the 4 corrections you might make. The simplest way to submit these files is to submit them in their entirety every time. Be aware when you are updating records or adding records, the nature of full replacement. Update the data in your student information system and submit complete files every time. All right, so at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Kyron.